Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of the Clutch Talk podcast /YouTube/We Do It All. It's Sunday, May 8th. Happy Mother's Day to everybody out there. My boy Jay Hill over there in the 6. How you doing, my dog?
Great. Big wing last night, but that's also not why I'm doing great. The man has returned. Lance, make him dance.
What's
Lance,
up, guys?
What's up, Lance?
Not much, man. I appreciate you guys, John J. Hill, for letting me on again. Like, I appreciate it. Love coming on your guys' podcast. Just excited to be here and talk some NBA playoff basketball.
Yes, sir, man. And for all the OG listeners, the family, the ones that's really been down for a minute, y'all know Lance is damn near regular to the pod now, man. So Lance, we're very happy to have you on, and for all the listeners too, make sure you go check out Lance's work. Lance is from the Everything Pistons Podcast, man. So I will link all of his work down in the description down below. So make sure you check him out. Very knowledgeable guy. That's why we had to bring him back on to talk about these round 2 series updates. So you guys ready to just talk about some of these games, some of these series?
Yes, sir.
Man, let's do it. So let's kick it off with the same series we've been kicking it off with all these previous episodes, and that's the Celtics versus Bucks. Right now, we just seen right now the Bucks are up 2-1. We just seen him get that very close win last night. Me and Jay both have Celtics in 7. Lance, since this is your first time getting your thoughts on this series, talk to us about who you got and how many games, just some of the things you've been seeing so far, or even what you look forward to.
So in this series, I got the Celtics. Like, I took them as soon as they swept the Brooklyn Nets. I love what the Celtics are doing, man. They're good defensively. They have a lot of different offensive firepower. They have depth. I love this team. It kind of stinks that they ran into Milwaukee in the second round, because that would be such a fun Eastern Conference Finals matchup. But we're getting in round 2. I think the Celtics win it in 7 as well. I really thought they were going to pull off that win last night. I'm not going to get into like how I thought the refs were reffing the game and everything, because it definitely seemed like there were a few questionable calls, especially coming down late. But I got the Celtics in 7, and that's no disrespect to the Milwaukee Bucks. I just think without Chris Middleton, and you have guys like Pat Connaughton and Grayson Allen stepping in and trying to fill that role that they have, it's just a little too much, and the task is it's too big of a burden for those guys to carry. So yeah, I got the Celtics in 7 over the Milwaukee Bucks.
Celtics is 7. All right, so you're right there on the same ship with me and Jay. But Jay, talk to me. I'm seeing some facial expressions. Jay, are you switching, Jay, or what's going on, my brother? I'm seeing for the YouTube. I'm seeing some facial expressions.
Hi, Jay, and Lance. I hear you, man. We had the Celtics in this. They're a great defensive team, but Jay, we talked about on the last episode about X factors. Who's it going to be for the Bucks, and who's it going to be for the Celtics? For the Bucks, we thought it was Drew Holiday, because we know what Giannis does. He's a superstar, best player in the league, in my opinion, best player in the world. Game 2, he struggled. He didn't shoot the ball well. Game 3, we knew it wasn't going to be the same thing. He came back absolutely dominant last night with 42 points to finish the night and getting it done defensively, offensively. But for the X factor for the Celtics, who do we talk about? Jason Tatum. We need it. If the Celtics are going to win this series, Jason Tatum needs to play like the superstar we all know he can be. And what did he do last night? And what has he done in the games they've lost? He shot 33% in game 1, loss, L. And then in game 3, 4 for 19, 21% from the field. I know numbers don't always tell the story, but that's your leading guy, the X factor. The Celtics, if they're going to win this series, they need Jason Tatum to perform. And if he's not going to do that on the road, especially, you can't expect role players to step up. And it's just concerning right now, the way Jason Tatum has played. He played well in game 2, but so did the whole Celtics team. And they shot the ball extremely well. So it's concerning right now as I see it. And that's my just analysis so far. Like, they need Tatum to be the superstar he is if they expect to come out of the series. And I know I picked the Celtics in 7, but if this performance continues, I don't think they're going to be able to overcome that.
Man, I mean, we talked about that, Jay. We talked about Drew Holiday for the Bucks being the X factor, and Tatum, and that's actually something that I want to go off and while yes, I'm happy the Bucks got this one, and yes, the Bucks got a win, and a win is a win. If you win by 1 point, if you win by 35 points, a win is a win. But it did take a 42-point double-double from Giannis, dang near a triple-double. Like how you mentioned, Jay, a terrible game from Jason Tatum, 10 points. The Bucks got a lot of work to do, man. Giannis did his thing. Drew Holiday, 25.7 rebounds. You want him to step up more, but it's not like he didn't show up. 25-7, almost had a double-double himself. But what I think is really another big X factor for the Bucks, and somewhere where they really got to step up is those shooters, man. Grayson Allen, Wesley Matthews, Pat Connaughton, George Hill. Grayson Allen, George Hill, Wesley Matthews all had under 5 points. Grayson Allen actually didn't score. Pat Connaughton had 11, but to me, that's not enough. You're getting so many open looks. I can tell you just from watching the game last night, I saw down the stretch at least Pat Connaughton get 3 open looks and blow all 3 late in the game. So I think that's something that the Bucks really need to look at, man, because that game, Giannis is extremely dominant, and Jay, you said at the top of the pod, he's just the most dominant player right now, and I'm right there with you. But I don't think it's a smart nor a healthy way for the Bucks to keep letting Giannis play like this. That game 3, Giannis kept his foot on their neck all game, kept going to the hoop. I was looking at a shot chart. Guys, he took 3 shots outside of the paint. They were just killing him in there. The Bucks scored 52 points in the paint. So they were making it a point for Giannis to just put his head down and get to the hoop. And I just don't know how sustainable that is. So yes, the Bucks got this one, but man, if they want to win this series, these shooters need to step up, man. But what's up, Lance? Talk to me.
I was going to say, I think that's kind of like a good strategy, though, for the Boston Celtics. Let Giannis do his thing. It kind of reminds me of when the Pistons let Shaq do his thing in the NBA Finals. I don't care if you score 30, 40 points. It doesn't matter. I'm going to stop everybody else. As long as I can stop everybody else, I can allow you to do your thing. So even though the Bucks came out with a victory last night, it was still a really close game. They allowed Giannis to do whatever he wanted to do, but it just came down to those final couple shots for the Celtics. And, they could easily be up 2-1 right now if those shots just fell a little differently. So I don't mind Giannis getting what he wants against the Boston Celtics as long as the Boston Celtics can shut everybody else down and make life difficult for them. And you guys were talking about an X factor. Even though I talked about Grayson Allen and Pat Connaughton a little bit at the beginning, those guys are huge X factors for me for the Milwaukee Bucks. If they want to win, they have to consistently step up and, really try to replace what Chris Middleton brought them game in and game out. They have to do that. Giannis there's so much gravity when he has the ball that he opens up everything else around for everybody. They have to hit open shots for the Milwaukee Bucks to win this series. But on the other hand, for the Boston Celtics, I like that you guys threw out Jason Tatum, but I got Grant Williams as the X factor for them, man. He's been stepping off the bench for him and playing a huge role. He's shooting 49% from 3. He played stout defense on Kevin Durant in the first round. Game 2, he made life hell for Giannis. Even though he's only 6'6", he's a good defensive player, and you're never going to stop Giannis. But if you can slow him down and make things difficult, the Boston Celtics have a real shot at winning this series. He's essentially a mini Al Horford out there. Whatever the team asks him to do, he will do. And that's why Grant Williams is an X factor for me for the Boston Celtics.
I like that. Yeah. What's up? Go ahead, Jay. Go ahead.
No, I hear that, Lance. You need those role players to step up. And I guess more for us, when we said those X factors, it was kind of the star players or, secondary role players. But when you say role players that need to step up and are going to be the difference makers in the series in that sense, I think Pat Connaughton, Grayson Allen, and then Grant Williams are 2 great picks. And I would have to agree with you on that.
Go on. My bad. Go on.
This is just a quick question for you. And you elaborated a little bit on the series, but my only concern, and maybe, John, Lance, talk to me about this. The Boston Celtics, in their only win, they shot 47% or close to 50% from the 3-point line. And similar, they took so many threes because Milwaukee was forcing them to take so in game 2, and they were knocking them down at a high click. I think they shot close to 60% in the first half of game 2. But then we flip it around to yesterday, and they shot 27% from 3-point line, only 36 from the field overall. And that's concerning to me, because if you're going to be relying on those 3-point shots, you're relying on guys to knock down shots. But I think that's so insurmountable if they're not going to shoot the ball well. Like, what do you guys think about that in the only game they won? Because
I guess, like, for the poor shooting, I'm just going to take it back to last game. They only lost by, 2 or 3 points. And even though they were shooting poorly, I guess it shows you that, like, their defense is really good enough to keep them in these games. That, and you guys were right, they do need Jason Tatum to step up. He absolutely has to be the superstar that he is. Like, if the shot's not falling from outside, he has to find a way to create offense for himself by attacking the rim. And, maybe even though he struggled last night, I think there's, like, he's still figuring it out, like how to go up against the Bucks length. And I think he will figure it out. I mean, that win, even though Milwaukee Bucks got it and they took it, it was still such a close game, even though the Boston Celtics were shooting poorly. I'm not so concerned with the shooting poorly, because they're an NBA team. They will figure out how to get the ball in the hoop. They will figure out how to score. So I think it's just more about Jason Tatum stepping up and picking his spots and not getting too frustrated with what the defense is showing him, because he is, in fact, the superstar of this team, and they only go as far as he's willing to take them.
Yeah, I'm really right there with you, Lance. As far as Tatum, I think that whenever the Celtics are struggling offensively, it needs to fall on Tatum's shoulders. And I love what you said right there, Lance. If he's not getting it going offensively, he's got to find other ways to get players involved. I mean, I'm looking at his stat line: 10 points, 3 assists, 1 steal, 3 turnovers. Is just, you definitely got to try to get other players involved. 0 for 6 from the 3-point line, 4 of 19 from the field. So just, I always say that, if it's not your night, that's okay, but get other people going, because then you're just going to simply shoot your team out of the game. So yeah, man, I 100% agree that any offensive struggles now needs to fall on Jason Tatum's shoulders, and he's got to be the guy to step up, because he's that offensive leader on that team. How would you agree, Jay?
Yeah, no. That's all the story of his career, and like his development, his maturity is, if he's not getting his shot going, it's yes, like, can he be able to distribute? Can he get other guys looks? Because the focus of the defense will always be on Tatum. Is he going to put his teammates in positions to knock down shots, get easier looks? And that could be the key to the series. Grant Williams, is he going to be in positions? Is he going to be wide open looks? Is he going to, like, draw doubles and be able to knock down shots from role players? So yeah, I absolutely agree with that.
And two, if, like, Tatum's shot's not falling, and, he needs to you're absolutely right. He needs to be able to create plays for other guys, and they need to hit shots. But man, like, if your shot's not falling, do something else to help out the team. Step up defensively, get down and, like, lock somebody up, like, help your team that way. If your shot's not falling, find other ways to help your team. And that can be on the defense side. It can be by setting other guys up. It can be by being a decoy, but just do something where we're not so focused on your poor shooting night, that we can point to other things in the game. Like, he did this well. He did this. He took the challenge of locking up Giannis or Drew Holiday. Like, he went toe to toe with Bobby Portis, whatever it is. That's what you need. That's something else you need to see from Jason Tatum as the series goes on.
Absolutely, man. Absolutely. All right, guys. So then let's get to this next series here. And that's, man, by far the most physical, the most rugged, the most dirty series we've been seeing so far, man, on both ends, on both sides, man. That's the Warriors versus Grizzlies, man. Right now, the Warriors are up 2-1. Just got a crazy game last night, man. Jay Hill has Warriors in 5. I have Warriors in 7. In this series, guys, first we've seen, Dylan Brooks with that, not the smartest move, pretty dirty move on GP2. The Warriors, publicly upset about that. And then, game 3, we seen that thing with Jordan Poole, pulling Ja's knee. Some people would say, some people would say it's dirty. Just like Dylan Brooks, you can't judge intent. But some people say it's dirty. Some people wouldn't say it's dirty. We got a Warriors expert in the building here. So I thought, who better to go to than my guy, Jay? So Jay, talk to me about how you're feeling about this series. Was the move dirty? Was all that, Jay? Talk to me.
First of all, yeah, I'll talk a little bit just about the series and what I saw in game 3. Number one, law of averages. Warriors have 2 of the greatest shooters undisputably of all time, like on the same roster. And you add Mr. Poole to that party, and man, it's pretty deadly, and that's what we saw last night. Lob Aldridge shot 63, it just felt like they were really unguardable last night. That offense, so high powered, and it was bound to happen back at home. And then I love the move of adding Jonathan Kuminga to the starting lineup for the Warriors. And if you want to talk about X factors for them, Jay, you talked about it on the last episode. I think he's huge reason. You know, he defensively, number one, throwing bodies at him, throwing his athleticism at Ja, you know, made things a little more difficult. Ja's obviously similar to Giannis, great player. He's going to get his, but slowing him down, like Lance talked about, was huge for them last night. And he played great, 18 minutes, energy guy, 18 points in 17 minutes. And then Otto Porter as well. He's provided just energy all series on the boards, defensively, getting those 50-50 balls. But last night, where the difference was for him, he was knocking down shots. I found like time after time in that first half, when the game was close, Otto Porter Jr. was coming, he was knocking down those shots when they needed him most. And that's exactly what they're going to need. And role players, what do they do at home? They step up, they hit those shots that you need, and similar to what they did. Am I expecting them to shoot 63% the rest of the series? I don't think so. But the averages I've laid out a little bit, and then
Jay,
it just felt like it was close, man.
Jay,
and then
hey Jay, talk to me. The family want to hear you, Jay. The family wants to hear, you know, hey Jay, we love your basketball insight, Jay, but the family out there, they're into the drama, Jay. They're into that TNT drama, Jay. So talk to me. How do you feel, Jay, about that whole thing? And just talk to me about it. Has it been a dirty series to you?
It has. It's been physical. There's been some questionable plays. I thought Draymond was a little excessive. I don't think it warranted a flagrant 2, but it was excessive. I think it was. You can never judge intent. He didn't want to give up an easy basket, so he didn't let it easy. Dylan Brooks, in my opinion, was a dirty play. You can talk about whether he wanted to do it or not. The dude didn't jump. That was the most, out of all these plays we've seen, that was the most egregious, just reckless play that I've seen in a while, ultimately. But that was that. And then you look at last night, yes, Jordan Poole, I think he was making a play on the ball. Ultimately, he got his knee. I don't know if it was dirty. He was going for the ball. I think, yeah, like you said, media, it's going to be talked about whether it's dirty. But there was a play where Desmond Bane, people aren't talking about this. Desmond Bane dove for the ball right at Jordan Poole's leg. If we're going to talk about Jordan Poole and him going for the ball, Desmond Bane literally dove at the guy's legs. Luckily, Jordan Poole didn't get injured. But I think there's these plays, the intent, whether it's dirty or not, is hard. And you could tell he wasn't going for his knee. I personally don't consider that dirty on Poole's part. Desmond Bane's, I don't know. But these plays are so, besides Dylan Brooks, these plays are so hard to judge whether the intent, whether it's dirty or not. Lance, I don't know how you're feeling about all these plays.
Oh, I just wanted to say something about nobody else is talking about in the third quarter, the beginning of the third quarter where John Morant lunged at Klay Thompson and they bumped knees and then he started limping a little bit afterwards. That, I believe, is when the initial knee injury actually happened for John Morant. And I have the video like on my phone. I saw it last night. I'm like, man, I'm going to save that. I don't know what made me want to save it, but that I saved that clip where now I'm seeing all the stuff about Jordan Poole, how he's a dirty player. I'm a huge Michigan basketball fan. Like, Jordan Poole is like, I'm so glad his career has turned out the way it has. Like, I love that it's gone this way. I didn't think it was a dirty play from Jordan Poole because I play basketball and I know sometimes when you're trying to get a steal, you might actually accidentally hit somebody, you know, like where the ball was, they might cross it over, flip hands or something. That's kind of what it seemed like to me. Taylor Jenkins, the Memphis head coach, he made it seem so much worse with his quote about it, where he said that Jordan Poole grabbed his knee and yanked it. I thought when I Googled that, like I Googled his words to find the video, it was not grabbing the knee and yanking and trying to pull the knee out of place or whatever. I don't think it was intentional at all. Dylan Brooks' play, though, like you were saying, Jay, he didn't even jump. Like that, in my opinion, is a very dirty play. Like I've been in those situations where you beat someone, you're going to the rim, and all they do is sometimes it could be a little worse, but I've definitely been pushed from behind plenty of times playing basketball where they weren't even trying to make a play on the ball. And that was a dirty play by Dylan Brooks. I felt like a one-game suspension wasn't enough, especially since Gary Payton II is out for probably the rest of the playoffs. That dude has worked so hard for 6 years to find a role in a home in the NBA, and he finally found it in Golden State. He was starting in the playoffs, and now it's all over. That, in my opinion, should warrant a much longer suspension than just one game. I was just so frustrated watching that play, not only because I'm a fan of Gary Payton, but just because I'm a basketball player at the end of the day too, and I hate plays like that. Dylan Brooks, the dirtiest play by far that I have seen, probably in like the last 2 years or 2 or 3 years of watching playoff basketball. I can't even really remember a play that I thought was that dirty, where they weren't even trying to make a play on the ball and then actually took the guy out for the rest of the season. It was just a bad play. I hated it from Dylan Brooks. I didn't even really like the Draymond Green play because I thought that he got ejected. I thought that was fair. I didn't think he was trying to help Brandon Clark up. I saw when he grabbed the jersey, he pulled him down. That, in my opinion, was kind of a dirty play as well. So I don't know. It's just been kind of a gritty series from both of these guys. And I guess that's my thoughts on the play so far on those three plays.
Real quick. Yeah.
Go ahead, Jay.
Real quick. Sorry, John. Real quick about just elaborating to that point. I think the Jordan Poole play, and then you mentioned Lance, him bumped Ja Morant. First of all, I hope Ja is healthy. I want both teams to be healthy and be in the series. Obviously, we're not going to get that because Gary Payton's already injured and out for probably the rest of the season. But for the players that are here, I hope Ja is healthy. He's able to play Game 4 because the Grizzlies are done without him. I think they're done regardless. But if he's out for Game 4, it's just from an NBA fan, from a basketball fan, it's something you don't want to see. And I hope he's healthy. Just state it because I didn't say it earlier. But I will say for Jordan Poole's play, compared to Draymond and Dylan Brooks, I think it's absurd to be even comparing the two, especially the Dylan Brooks play that took a dude out for the season. I think that's silly and disgraceful to even compare the two because completely different plays in the context of the game. Just thought I'd say that point.
So in my opinion, guys, I'm actually leaning more towards just like kind of how you said, Lance. I'm just chalking this series up as a dirty series both ways. I think that the Draymond Green move was a dirty move for sure. I think the Dylan Brooks move was a dirty move for sure. I think that the Jordan Poole was a dirty move for sure. I think Desmond Bane diving on Jordan Poole's leg was a dirty move for sure. In my opinion, I'm just chalking all of this up as this is just a dirty, gritty series on both ends. But you know what? To be honest, I mean, we hate to see the injuries, but like, man, I mean, this is playoff basketball. You don't want to see injuries. That's the last thing I want people to think I'm trying to say. But I'm just saying, like, the dirtiness, you know what I'm saying, coming from both ends. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's what that grittiness is about. And I mean, I'm not saying the grittiness is about injuries, but I'm just saying that's where, no buckets up and one team gets upset when your brother gets hurt out there. You're at war. A lot of them talk about really going to war out there. And, you see a dirty play like Draymond's, a Warrior's going to come back. You see a dirty play like Dylan Brooks, Warriors are going to come back to it. Grizzlies are going to come back to it. I think at the end of the day, man, like it's just one of those great series. I mean, Lance, you're a Detroit guy. You know about just rugged basketball and physical. So I think it's just one of those physical series. But I'm glad to see it, man. I'm not glad to see the injuries, but I'm glad to see the physicalness, man, because that's how you know, like, this is real playoff basketball. And just another thing, just to add on there, like these last couple of games we've been seeing, like, the score hasn't gone over like 110, guys. You know what I'm saying? So like, this is real physical defense, gritty playoff basketball. So, man, I mean,
is it though?
And that's what we love, though, right? Like, I mean, we all talk about it. Like, you can, well, we can all, like, we see it on social media, Twitter, whether it's Facebook, TikTok, Instagram, it doesn't matter. Like, we all want to see physical basketball in this series. In my opinion, it's been my personal favorite Like, I love the atmosphere from both arenas. I love John Morant's dad being at every game, sitting courtside, doing his thing. Like, that is amazing. I just love the atmosphere of this series. And I love that it's physical, man. I love that guys are on the ground. I love that guys are giving each other hard fouls when they're going to the rim. Like, I love that. I mean, I don't like, what the bad boys and the Boston Celtics and the Lakers were doing in the 80s. Like, I don't want to see clotheslines on the court, but I want to see physical basketball, man. I want to see that style come back to the NBA. And I think this series it's kind of an eye opener, but it's also funny that even though we're having this physical series that we have all been begging for a long time, we want the NBA to get kind of back to this level of physicality. I find it funny that there are so many fans that just want to cry and whine about how there's not this being called or it's too physical or that. Like, you can't have it both ways. You got to pick one or the other. I love this physical brand of basketball. It has been so much fun for me to watch this series. It's been awesome, man. I don't even have enough words to describe this series, but I have personally loved this series more than anything. I'll lose sleep. I don't even care if this game starts at 1 a.m. I will watch this series. I will watch it for how many games it is. I hope it goes to game 7. I think the Warriors win in 5, but man, I'm going to be up for all of them. Like, I just love this series so much.
Man, yeah, this is a great series. What's up, Jay? Go ahead.
Okay, real quick. About that, I think also in the series, and you mentioned the physicality, I think that just comes with the territory. Josh said it from the beginning, like, we want all the smoke, and and you got to remember, you're gonna get all the smoke. You said let's have some fun. It's gonna be fun. Like, these are the three-time NBA champions. These guys are back in the playoffs for the first time. They're gonna come with the fire. And as do you. You're the young, hungry Grizzlies, a team that I love. And Jay, what did I say from the beginning? This is a team that I don't want to see in the playoffs. I think the Grizzlies are going to be the team of the future for sure. I don't know if they're ready yet. But man, this is what they want, all the smoke. They're going to get all the smoke, and this is going to be a great series. Still got
Jay,
my Dubs in 5.
Oh man, I want to ask Jay one quick question.
Go ahead, Lance.
Jay,
go ahead.
Since you're a Warriors fan, how did you feel about John Morant pulling out the gritty in the first game? Like, it was like what? Like, I think it was in the first half, and he just started dancing on the court like mid-game. How, as a Warriors fan, did that make you feel? Because I know me personally, as a competitor, as a basketball player, I'm just like, oh my God, dude, I hope we beat them by like 30. Like, I want to blow these dudes out so badly, like when I saw him doing that. But how did you feel as a Warriors fan?
Man, I wanted to beat these guys. Like, unfortunately, well, I will say that was like, okay, these guys aren't serious. Like, man, he's gonna come out, he's gonna be dancing. When you hit after a 3 like that, I was like, okay, it's on. Like, I want to beat these guys already. But even from the beginning of the season, like, they were talking all this, the media had hyped it up, and I think there's some false things said about Iguodala that weren't true, but the media is going to create that story to build it up, and the Grizzlies bought into it. But I was just like, man, Lance, to answer your question, I was like, okay, it's on. And then to after that, just throughout the series, I've just been thinking, like, FDB, first of all, for those you can do from game since the beginning of game 2, when certain thing happened, people, listeners, and everyone, you can understand and what that means. FDB, that's been my mentality. I think the Warriors have that too. So they got to beat this Memphis team and humble the young folks, as good as they are. Humble this young team.
Man, this is, like how Lance said, one of those great greedy series. Just for the family out there, make sure you guys don't miss a game. Just don't miss none of these games, guys. Come on. Like, in the regular season, I hear you. There's like 10 games starting at like the same time. But right now, guys, there's no excuse. Everybody needs to be watching all of these games. So I just
want to say one more thing too about this series. Like, Jay, you had talked about your X factor, Jonathan Kuminga. Dude, I 100% agree with you. I loved watching him play last night. Like, he is a huge X factor for them. We all know what I was going to pick Jordan Poole, but I thought that was too easy because I'm like, man, you know what? That dude's already arrived. He's a scorer. He's a playmaker for the Warriors. But Jonathan Kuminga and what he brings to this team, he allows them to play small ball he allows them to play small ball with more height. He's athletic. He's energetic. He's a hustler. Like, he's willing to play defense. I love Jonathan Kuminga, and I think he is the absolute X factor. And we are watching, man, the Warriors hit it, they hit it again with the Jonathan Kuminga pick, man. I don't think the Warriors dynasty is going to die for a while. That is, man, that was such a great pick. And you are starting to see him come into his own and figure it all out. And man, he's going to be a dangerous player in a couple seasons.
Hey, for everyone listening, hey Jay, we got to we take our credit when we're wrong, but we got to take our credit when we're right. On the last episode, me and Jay said the Warriors have to play Jonathan Kuminga more, played him more, did his thing, and then also another thing me and Jay said is, Andrew Wiggins has got to be there. When Andrew Wiggins is there, they are just a whole another level. They really got on the low, a big four out there if Andrew Wiggins is playing that good. And he did. And just want to give ourselves some credit too, Jay, because we called that one out.
Isn't that crazy though? You're watching the Warriors and they have so much depth. I completely forgot Andrew Wiggins was even on this team, even though he just baptized Brandon Clark earlier in the series. Man, I completely forgot. He had a good game last night too. And dude, it's so funny, watching Andrew Wiggins on this team. Cause I remember when they first traded for him, I was on Reddit and I'm just sitting there talking. I'm like, dude, this is a great trade. This is a steal for the Warriors. Andrew Wiggins is going to make this team, he's going to be phenomenal in that Harrison Barnes role. I got shit on by so many people on Reddit telling me I was wrong. And just to see him become an all-star, whether it was warranted or not, doesn't matter. But then to see him to have continued success in the playoffs with the Warriors, that's a win, man. That is a win. It is incredible to see what Andrew Wiggins has done with the Golden State Warriors, man. I love it.
Big bounce back from Andrew Wiggins, man. We love to see it, man. So, all right. So then, what's up, Jay?
Real quick.
Go ahead, Jay.
Well, maybe both of you, just real quick. So, is Jordan Poole is he a star?
Oh yeah, I think he's in that weird tier where you're going to want to see him. I believe you're going to want to, I know he had a great season with the Warriors, but you want to see him play with the playoff level into the regular season. That's when I think he will he'll jump up into that star. He right now is on the cusp of being a star in the NBA, but I think you just want to see this level of intensity and this level of play throughout 82 games in the regular season. But man, I can tell you right now, he is going to get paid for sure. I don't know by who, but Jordan Poole is going to get paid, man. Yeah.
And for me, I would say the same thing. I would say just consistency is what would take him to the top. I think right now he's at that, I would say Tyler Hero level where it's you're legit, man, but you're not yet at that Luka, that Devin Booker level yet, but he's definitely, touching there. He just needs the consistency to be real, because he'll have explode a 32-point game, then explode for an 8-point game. We just need to find that median, So yeah, he can definitely get there. He's definitely about to get paid. And let's see, man. The Warriors got some decisions to make. They got a lot of good players coming up, man.
Make it happen, Warriors.
Make it happen, Jay.
If they let Jordan Poole go, that'll be a travesty, man. They gotta make anything move,
make it play
out. I don't know.
If they let him
he's
go,
that's not my job. Jay's that's not my job.
Hey,
I'm here to talk about basketball.
Dude, if they let him go, I hope he signs in Detroit. I would love to see him paired with Cade Cunningham. That would be such a fun backcourt, in my opinion. 2 playmakers, 2 guys that can get you buckets. That is a backcourt that you can win with. I would love to see it. So, yeah, I'm hoping the Warriors don't pay him and he can come to Detroit. But if he's going to get paid and he stays in Golden State, I'm fine with that.
Man. All right. So then let's keep it pushing, man. And let's get to this next series, man. And that's the Suns versus the Mavs right now. The Suns are leading 2-1. Jay Hill got Suns in 6. I got Suns in 5. Honestly, guys, I'm just going to go real quick and just kind of talk about this because I know the Mavs got to win, but this series is still over, in my opinion. Shout out the other players that showed up in Brunson and Kleba, because on the last episode, I called them out and I called them out on their names. And I was like, you need to show up. You need to help Luka. And Luka was out there by himself the first 2 games. But in game 3, Brunson stepped up. It led the Mavs with 28 points. Maxey also stepped up. But like I just said, like this series is over, and it doesn't mean anything to me because this was an uncharacteristic game from both parties, right? So like the Suns, this was an uncharacteristic bad game for them. They scored 20 points in the first quarter, which, mind you, was the lowest amount of points they scored in the first quarter all season. They were stuck at 20 from the beginning of the second quarter all the way to the 8-minute mark. CP3 might have had the worst game of his just career straight up. At halftime, he had 5 points and 7 turnovers. CP3, the man who does not turn the ball over, he ended the game with 12 points, 7 turnovers, 4 fouls. The Suns, a team that doesn't really turn the ball over very often, ended the game with 17 turnovers. And I mean, what makes the Suns great is their role players who always perform, or their team is extremely deep. But this game, that did not happen. And I don't see I don't think the chances of this happening again are high. And then when we flip it to the other end, the Mavs had an uncharacteristically good game, in my opinion. They had 1 turnover the entire first half. If you take from game 1 and game 2, they had 26 turnovers in total. In game 3, they had 8 turnovers. So I think this is a very uncharacteristic good game for them. They had 34 points in the paint in the first quarter, finished the entire game with 50 points in the paint. A team who isn't that big inside, man, but this was just one of those games where like the guys was like, here you go, man. You can make every shot in the world. Just it's all going in. And I mean, this was for the Mavs to win. And, happy for the Mavs. I didn't want to see Luka get swept, man. But it's, in my opinion, I talked about on the last episode. The Suns got him covered. Like the Suns are just a better team, and they're gonna take this series, man. So, Lance, I would love to get your thoughts.
How many games do you think it goes to? Like, are you thinking 5?
I think Suns in 5.
Okay. That would, like, if I was gambling, I would definitely put the Suns in 5, but I just have this feeling that this series could go to 7 games because I feel like the Warriors and the Grizzlies will go to 5. We need one series to go to 7 games. And for some reason, it just feels like this series could go 7 games. I'm probably wrong. I'm not right about a lot of things, but I would love to see it. I think the biggest thing, though, for the Mavericks is just kind of staying out of their own head. Like, I mean, you're playing against Chris Paul, man. Like, he's been in the game for a long time. He knows all the tricks. Like, he knows how to get away with certain things that don't look like fouls. Like, it was Jalen Brunson that got an offensive foul just dribbling the ball up the floor. It's just those things. Don't let Chris Paul get into your head. And like Luka, there was that clip of him arguing with the fan. Dude, just stay focused on the game. You're one of the best players in the NBA. Your team needs you. Don't get into these arguments that mean nothing, that don't help you in the game whatsoever. Those are some things that need to change. And then Jalen Brunson, man, he looked like, he was going to get paid at the end of the first round against the Utah Jazz. And he's been struggling other than, the last game. I think he had, 24, 28 points?
28.
But, for him, he's a smallish guard. I've said this before on my own podcast on the Everything Pistons one, because a lot of Pistons fans want the Pistons to sign Jalen Brunson. He's just too small of a guard, man. And it's just, and that's what you're seeing against a lengthier, more defensive oriented team in Phoenix. So again, if the Mavericks really want to go far, don't let Chris Paul get in your head. Don't let the outside noise get in your head. And then Jalen Brunson, he's probably the second best player on this team. He needs to step up. Like his 3-point ball, it's not been falling at all in this playoffs. He's been doing most of his damage inside the arc. Try to go back to those things that have been working for you, and that's what I think will help the Mavericks push this series. I'm not saying they're going to win it. I definitely think Phoenix has too much depth and they're too good, and they've been playing together for a little bit longer than this Mavericks team, and they just have better talent. But if the Mavericks want to push this series, they need Jalen Brunson to step up, and that's why he's my X factor for this series.
Yeah, I think it's going 6 or 7. I just think role players step up at home. Consistent theme. Phoenix didn't play well in Game 3, but I thought that was a lot of credit defensively to what Dallas was doing, the schemes they were throwing at. Making the reads tougher for Chris Paul, which is hard to say. I mean, Chris Paul, he's a maestro. Doesn't matter what reads you throw at, but they were doing a good job of throwing different schemes. Credit to Jason Kidd and his staff for making Dallas more stout defensively and throwing different kind of junk defenses and schemes at the Phoenix team to make them think a little bit more, because number one, the way the percentage that they were shooting at, and I talk about Law's averages in last series for the Warriors, similar to the Suns. Things are bound to, even themselves. The percentage they were shooting from the two was insane, especially Chris Paul. I mean, at that point, that's going to drop to a little bit, and that's what we saw in game in game 3. It dropped to a little bit of a more normal rate. And if Dallas can continue to keep up with them defensively, they can make this a series. And I looked for them to even it up tonight in game 4 because of that. I just think that they're going to continue to play well. I think another big game I can see from Jalen Brunson, and it can't be all Luka if they're going to win tonight, especially. I don't see them winning the series, but I see tonight they can even things up in Dallas at home.
Man, yeah, I mean, I don't know, guys. I just when I watch this Mavs team, especially against the Suns team, like I just don't see it happening. I mean, Lance, you talked about how Brunson really played like great last series, and I talk about it on the pod. The reason why he played great, the reason why Maxey played great, is because of Rudy Gobert and his drop coverage. So they were just taking advantage of that mid range. But it's a different thing with the Suns. They all can stay with you on the perimeter. They all can stay with you down low. So it makes it tough for them, man. So I don't see the Mavs getting out of this one. But if it does end up going to a 7-game series, yes, Brunson got to step up, but also Dinwiddie, man, the man had 4 points last game. He's supposed to be one of those microwave guys, right? You just bring him off the bench. You ain't got to run no plays for him. Just Dinwiddie, hey, go start yourself. Go ignite your offense, man. So man, I mean, good series, but let's see what comes of this. But honestly, guys, I want to get to this next series. Okay, do you guys have anything to talk about for this Sun series, or are you guys done with that?
No, not really. I mean, like the Philly and Miami, it's been kind of a boring series for me because Joel Embiid hasn't played, and I really like the Dallas Mavericks. I really like watching Luka play. But even then, going into it, you kind of knew Phoenix had their number. You're kind of hoping that Dallas can pull it off. But it's been one of those series, I'll watch it, but I'm not as entertained as I am from the Warriors, Grizzlies, or the Celtics and the Bucks. So it's one of those series that I'm definitely going to watch, going to keep my eyes on it. But I just think it's one of those series where that Phoenix is going to come away with it. They're going to advance. So there's not as much excitement for me watching that series, but I'm still rooting for Dallas to make it a 7-game series. I think that'll be fun, but I really do think Phoenix comes away with it. And there's not really too much to talk about on that aspect because the teams really aren't that close in terms of talent.
Man, Jay, do you got any last things you want to add on that series, or you done with that?
Lance took the words right out of my mouth. I think I definitely want to see this series go 7 for some selfish reasons for the Warriors to get some more rest and have both of these teams, whoever comes out, I think it's going to be Phoenix. But I think Phoenix too much experience. They want to go back to the finals, and I think they're going to be able to get out of this series. I don't know how much. I think 6 games, or 6 or 7. Love to see it go 7, but yeah, like Lex said, it's not too much of a question about the outcome of who comes out.
Man. Well, all right. Yeah, that's good series, man. But now, guys, let's get to this 76ers versus Heat series. And Lance, I was right there with you. This was not an entertaining series. Me and Jay Hill both had Heat in 5, and we were like, okay, well, no Joel Embiid. If freaking Paul Reed or DeAndre Jordan have to be out there, I guarantee you the 76ers aren't going to win. But and I don't even have the 76ers winning anymore. But I just want to say this, okay? Because Jay Hill, how much I've been raving for Joel Embiid to be MVP in the season. I've been like, Joel Embiid MVP, and he unfortunately didn't get it. Jokic ended up getting it 2 times, and Jokic deserved it, did his thing. But the biggest Jokic argument, right, was like, his impact on his team, right? If he wasn't there, they wouldn't even made the play in. They were the 6th seed. But And this is an honest question I have to any of the family out there, Jay Hill, Lance, you guys, you didn't have Embiid for MVP. Does this change your mind, right? Because, I mean, look at this. The 76ers were getting just mollywop, bro. Just like on the glass, they were getting out rebounded every game. They were getting the Heat were scoring 50 plus points in the paint. But all of this stops as soon as Joel Embiid comes back in, and my guy Joel Embiid is playing through a fractured thumb, a fractured face, a freaking concussion. I've had a concussion, and it is like you don't even want to look at light. He is playing a basketball game with concussion. He had a massive impact on this game. Like I mentioned, he prevented the Heat from scoring more than 50 points in the paint, because in game 3 they only scored 28 points in the paint. He prevented the Heat from out rebounding them, because in both games 1 and 2 the Heat out rebounded the 76ers. Game 3 not the case at all. And I mean, I know Jokic is going to get MVP, but just like the NBA needs to somehow figure out a way to just reward Joel Embiid for this, man, because I don't know if it's just coming because I'm a Lakers fan and I see Anthony Davis like freaking scratch his knee and then not play. But this needs to be rewarded. This needs to be rewarded. A freaking fractured face, and he's out there playing to save his team, and he actually does it. And sometimes it's like, oh, you go out there, but it's just so the fans can talk about you, and you still get mollywop. No, he went out there, had an impact, and won the game. Hey, look, man, I like Jokic, great guy, but Joel Embiid for MVP, man. I wish the NBA did it after the playoffs.
He's being rewarded with, I think, $48 million this year.
There we go. Okay, there we go. You're right.
No, and I was really surprised at how bad Philadelphia is without Joel Embiid.
Man,
they did not look like a playoff team. But I think it's fair to say that Nikola Jokic and Joel Embiid, their impact on their teams are almost similar. I really think that if you took both those guys off the Denver Nuggets and the Philadelphia 76ers, both these teams would be bad. But the difference is you have James Harden. I know he's not like James Harden of Houston, but it's still James Harden. He's still a good player, even though his drop-off has been just crazy. I think that's what a lot of voters look at. They just look at the talent that each team has had, and they're like, okay, well, if Joel Embiid's not there, James Harden can still win them a few games. Tobias Harris is better than Aaron Gordon. They still got Tyrese Maxey who's coming in his own. And then you look at the Nuggets. They don't have Michael Porter Jr. They don't have Jamal Murray. I'm trying to even think of some other players they've had. They've had to play with a lot of bench players in their starting lineup. It's just been for Nikola Jokic to pull them and drag them into the playoffs. That is MVP worthy of mine, but I wouldn't be upset if Joel Embiid got it. He is very impactful and he means a lot to what Philly is trying to do. And it's just, that's kind of my points on the MVP discussion, I guess I should say.
Jay, you got any thoughts on talk to me.
Right there with you, Lance, in terms of both players are deserving, but it's the overall body of work, even though I've said it all along, between when they brought in James Harden, I just think it made the route to MVP just a lot more difficult for Joel Embiid, just because Nikola Jokic, number one, had them at the 6th seed, which is low, and it can be said it's low for MVP standards. But I think it's also dealing with, if you're measuring up the two, what they've lost and what he's been able to do in a stout West, in a West that's so competitive, and keep them afloat. And, although they did get a gentleman's sweep in the first round, I think just even to pull out a game when they were severely undermatched against the Warriors was still big. And I think both are deserving, but ultimately the James Harden and the supporting cast of Philadelphia is better than what Denver and Jokic had to work with.
Okay, I got a question for you guys. Bigger X factor for their teams, James Harden for the 76ers or Tyler Hero for the Miami Heat? Ooh. These guys were brought up in trade discussions a couple seasons ago, and I remember how crazy everybody thought Miami was by not letting Tyler Hero go for James Harden. But what are your guys' thoughts? Who's a bigger X factor for their team?
Man, if we're saying for their team, I think it's got to be James Harden. Jay, earlier in the series, you were talking about Joel Embiid is clearly the best player in the series, but who's going to be that second best player? And so far, it hasn't been James Harden. It needs to be James Harden. So as far as biggest X factor for their team, absolutely James Harden, man. But that was a hard one though, because Tyler Hero has been massive for the Heat and has been coming off the bench huge for them. But Jay, what do you think, Tyler or James?
I have to flip. You talk about Miami being being a team. Jay, we talked about too, Miami, a team without a first legitimate option. And people say that's Jimmy Buckets. But I would have to argue, like, offensively, from an offensive standpoint, if you need a bucket and I'm choosing between anyone on Miami, I'm taking Tyler Hero. Just a consistent, reliable jumper. I mean, he believes in himself. He's willing to take those shots. He can come in, get buckets. And I think for him, offensively, and what Miami needs, they need Tyler Hero to be that guy. And I think for James Harden, and I'm gonna base the question off this, Lance, with knowing Joel Embiid's back. I do agree, Jay. I still agree that they need James Harden to be James Harden. But I think throughout this series, we've seen the continued emergence and growth. And I ultimately think Tobias Harris arguably had the best 6 weeks of his career.
For real.
For the Sixers, underrated. And I think Tyrese Maxey, let's think about way back. I talked to both of you, and I remember, Lance, you were on the Sixers. I said, the Sixers cannot get rid of Tyrese Maxey because I believe in him so much. So that's why I think Tyler Hero's the guy between the two, because Tyrese Maxey and Tobias Harris have just been playing better than James Harden consistently throughout these playoffs. So, and you got Joel Embiid back. So that's
and I'm with you, Jay. I think Tyler Hero is the bigger X factor for the Miami Heat because they lost by 20 in their last game. He had 14 points off the bench. If they want to advance, the Miami Heat need to find ways, and they need to get Tyler Hero in the best position to score and be that offensive player. I don't care if you just have to play him off the ball. You have got to find ways to get him in open and clean looks at the basket and allow him to do his thing, because he is one of their biggest players. Even though he comes off the bench and he was the sixth man of the year, like, his role is so important and so vital for what the Miami Heat do. They have got to find ways to put him in the best position to get buckets. Like, I think he is by far the biggest X factor in the series. And James Harden, I don't even know what's going on. This dude is shooting 21% from the three-point line. He's only made 4 3-pointers. He's by far the biggest surprise of the playoffs, in my opinion. I had a client sitting in my chair earlier in the week, and he's like, when you look back at 30-point scorers, they all shoot 12, 13, 14, 15 free throws a game. James Harden, I think, is averaging around like 7, 8 a game. He has to find a way to get back to the free throw line if the Philadelphia 76ers want to win this series. Like, I know the rules have changed, but he has got to find a way to get to the free throw line. It's going to help him with his shot. It's going to allow him to get cleaner and more open looks, because the defense is going to play him differently. They're going to sag off. They're going to allow him to – it's going to be able to allow him to create space to get those three-pointers off. And I think that's what he needs to do. I think that is the biggest thing for James Harden to get back, is just find a way to get to the free throw line. That's a real art, in my opinion. We all talk about how there's 4 levels of scoring in the NBA. You can shoot from the mid-range, you can attack the basket, you can shoot the three-point, then you can even shoot the deeper three-point. But I think there's a 5th element to being an offensive player, and the element that we don't really look at is guys getting to the free throw line. It is a real art in the NBA, and James Harden needs to find a way to get back to the free throw line if the Philadelphia 76ers want to win this series. I think that is such a huge part of his game. It gets overlooked. And, I don't know if it's the refs just, reffing the games differently or whatever. Maybe it is just the rule changes, but James Harden really needs to figure it out if the Philadelphia 76ers want to advance. But my question to you guys is, what do you think James Harden needs to do to get back to being the beard in the NBA?
Man, look, honestly, man, James Harden has been the biggest letdown. I'm right there with you, Lance. I agree. But I think what he needs to do more than, yes, he needs to get to the free throw line. More than anything, he needs to get in shape and stop taking these step backs, right? Like, this is not James Harden of 2017. This is not James Harden of 2018, 2019, when he was the 2-time NBA scoring champion. This is not that same James Harden. And these step backs that he are taking, these are contested step backs. Like, contested stepbacks when you have players like Tyrese Maxey, Tobias Harris, who are playing better than you, just sitting there on the corners watching you, not moving, not even cutting, not getting to the basket. We got Harden dribble down the shot clock to a step back. I think that needs to be gone, because, like how you said, Lance, the game isn't called the same anymore. He used to get so many of those calls on those on those step backs because you couldn't do anything. And like, the game, to be real with you, a couple of years ago favorited the offensive player. Everyone talked about that. Favored the offensive player. The defensive player couldn't put his hand on him. Couldn't do all these things. And James Harden took advantage of that. And a lot of people, and shout out my brother Junior, man. My brother, he used to always tell me, like, man, like James Harden, like, he's not good. Like, he just draw fouls. And I used to always be like, I mean, it's part of the game. You know what I'm saying? It's like, it's an art of the game. And like how you said, Lance, there's an art to the game. And if you want to win, like, man, a point is a point. And whether I'm getting it free, 2 free ones at the free throw line, or I'm getting a contested one with your hand in my face, but a point is a point. And they don't really care about all the outside noise, but he's not doing that as much. He's just simply not getting to the basket as much. Remember that little move James Harden used to do where he used to like get to the hoop, bring it under, and then like bring it over like that? Like, he doesn't do that anymore. Like, that move was so effective. And like how you said, Lance, he's got this last game, got to the free throw line 8 times. Back in 2018, 2019, when he was on the Rockets taking over, he was getting like 14 times a game, man. So, yeah, James Harden's got to get back to the free throw line, got to get back in shape, got to look like he cares. Guy doesn't look like he cares at times out there. I'd see him miss a shot and just like walk back on defense that the Heat are running back the other way. It's it's disgraceful. It's just, and I'm sorry, Jay, I'm sorry I'm going so long, but it's disgraceful. The man should not have made a top 75 team. Kind of pisses me off, to be honest.
Ooh.
Kind of pisses me off.
Yeah. No, I get it.
Jay, talk to me.
It's tough. I just think Lance, he's lost a step, and that's
he's lost.
Just the decline of his overall just athleticism. I don't know if it's, we talked about last episode, John, about him, Chris Paul being a vegan and him totally changing his body, and after the two of them left, now Chris Paul has had a better career at this point since the two of them have left Houston. And I think it's a lot to do with them taking care of the way they take care of their bodies. One goes to strip clubs, one's investing in his time. But, I'm not going to get into Harden's personal decisions. But, yeah, it's a lot to do with him losing a step in it. I don't really know outside of that what he has to change. Is it a little too late, too little too late? Is that what we're seeing from him trying to change his ways at this point in his career at this age? And I just think it's really looking like a bad contract. I know he can opt into it, I believe, or he can choose to leave and explore free agency, which I don't think he'll do because that's a big bag. I think it's $46 million he's leaving on the table if he does that. But man, it's looking like a bad trade for Brooklyn and Philly. I don't even know who could say won it at this point. But to answer your question, I don't know what he can do. Really,
have we seen like a bigger fall from an NBA player or as quickly as a fall for that James Harden? Because I mean, dude, just like a couple of years ago, we were talking about him as like a top 5 shooting guard of all time. Like the way he was playing and, the way he was carrying himself and how he was kind of taking over the league. And man, looking back on those discussions, they seem kind of silly now. And I can't remember a player that, and especially this early, because I think James Harden is only like 31 or 32 years old. Like, he's not that old for a basketball player, especially with the way the game is played and like how much more goes into their bodies and how much work they do off the court. There's just so much more that goes into having a professional career. I don't think we've ever seen a player drop off from being a superstar to being almost just like a role player now for the Philadelphia 76ers and just a shell of his former self. But I know you guys got to get ready to go. But I got one more question for you guys I want to ask you. If you had to rank these series 1 through 4, how do you guys rank them in terms of like entertainment and how much fun you guys are how much fun you have watching these series?
Jay, let me sound off real quick. I definitely got number 1, Celtics and Bucks. That one is right there, top of the line. Number 2, I definitely got Warriors and Grizzlies. It's just great series going at it. Suns, Mavs, and then Heat, 76ers.
That's my exact order. Like, that is my exact order. Like, and just in terms of entertainment, how much I've been enjoying watching those series, that is my exact order, John. That's incredible.
Jay, what about you?
I would flip, man. Maybe I can't even put the bias aside, but number 1, I got Warriors, Grizzlies. Number 2, and then reverse order, basically the same order as you, John.
Got you.
Just flip flop. Warriors, Grizzlies, number 1, and then Bucks.
So yeah, number 2. Got you. The rest the same. Yeah. Man. I mean, and then Lance, you talked about Harden, and I just want to kind of put this into perspective because you talked about the fall off. Harden, I keep saying 2-time. I apologize. 3-time scoring champion. And in 2018, 2019, the man averaged 36 points per game. And that's the 7th highest scoring average in a season in NBA history. This man has not scored more than 25 points in the playoffs yet. What is this? This is upsetting. Man, James Harden, Jay, you said it best, man. I'm not trying to judge his personal choices. He do what he do off the court, but when whatever you're doing off the court starts affecting what you're doing on the court, you need to fix that. You need to get yourself together. And you it's an issue, man. You're getting paid millions of dollars. Show up, man. Show up.
It's funny because, like, you know, a basketball, like really just a sports career only lasts so long. Like, you would think when you were on top of your game, like James Harden was, you would do everything in your power to be considered one of the greatest of all time. Like, when you're at that cusp, like he was, and he's on the 75 greatest players of all time list and everything like that. He's the 3-time scoring champ. He's been a league MVP. He's been one of the most popular players in the NBA. You would really think that this guy would do whatever he could to remain on top and be considered one of the greatest of all time. Like, you would really think that he would put all of his effort in off the court to doing that stuff. And I mean, maybe he does. I have no idea. But when you watch him play and you hear the stories and you see these things, like, it makes you think, like, man, maybe he just doesn't care as much as some other players have. And you kind of wish James Harden did. You really do. Jay, that point you brought up makes me think of that. Chris Paul, James Harden, same team, different directions. One, chose to – I'm not even talking about the family life in strip clubs. Like, even just the eating, even just eating your food, taking care of your body. One is still in the playoffs and a lot older. So James Harden's got to get it together, man. Guys, do you guys got any last words to say about this series, man? Any last insults for James Harden here? I got nothing else to say.
Jay,
I think Game 4 is going to be interesting, though. What we see tonight could be. It did look like a different Philadelphia team out there, and not the same Heat team, but a lot to do with the X factor we talked about, Tyler Hero. They got to get him more involved. Got to get him better looks, like Lance said, and they'll be able to come out of this series in 5 or 6.
Man, well, all right, guys. So we got a lot to look forward to, guys. Like we've been saying at the end of all these episodes, man, it's playoff basketball. Stay tuned, man, for all the family out there, man, for the listeners listening, man. Stay tuned. Me and Jerry are going to continue to bring fire playoff coverage, man. You already know, 2 episodes per week. Stay tuned for that. And we always bring in a guest, man. And this week it happened to be the great Lance Make 'em Dance Caporossi from the Everything Pistons podcast. Lance, I just want to thank you one more time, man, for coming on. You've been honestly a real friend of ours, since the beginning. So we appreciate you coming on. Do you got any last words you want to say here?
Man, I just want to say thanks again for having me on. I love coming on to the Clutch Talk podcast and talking basketball with you guys. It's always a treat. I really do appreciate it. Just giving me another platform to talk basketball. This is what I do. This is what I love to do. And I'm just glad you guys gave me the opportunity. Just real quick for everybody that's still listening, follow me on Twitter at Lance Caporossi. Check out the Everything Pistons podcast. Even if you're not a Pistons fan, do me a favor and just go check out the Ben Wallace interview, man. Like, that was a lot of fun. One of the highlights of my podcasting career. Please feel free to go check that out and, do what you guys do. And thanks again to John and Jay for letting me on their podcast and being able to talk hoops.
Yes, sir, man. It's all good. Everything's in the description down below for Lance's stuff, man. Go check out Everything Pistons podcast, man. But Jay, any last words here?
Lance, always appreciate you coming on the show, man. Anytime too. And yeah, go check out Lance's stuff. Great content. And that Ben Wallace episode, man. Legend on the show on Everything Pistons podcast. So go check that out. And as always, appreciate everyone listening and continued support.
Yes, sir, man. And that's it. We out here, y'all. Clutch Talk out.
Peace.